Okay, so setting up the belt CP. So this is just going to be the process that I use to set up my belt CP. It's also kind of the same process I use to set up my eSmart. But the one thing I do want to tell you, you cannot set up a collective pitch helicopter without a pitch gauge. You have to have a pitch gauge. So go ahead and buy one of these things if you don't have it. This allows you to read the angle of the blades so that you can properly set up the helicopter. It's simple to use, and I'll show you all about it a little bit later in the video. But again, have to have a pitch gauge, set up a collective pitch helicopter. Okay, so first step, make sure you unplug the motor from the speed controller. It's very, very important. After you do that, go ahead, turn the transmitter on. You want to make sure you got all your trim tabs in the center, except for the throttle trim tab. You want this at the very bottom. The two dials up here, I leave them in the center. You can pull the idle up switch towards you, and then put your throttle stick right here in the middle. This is where I'm going to leave my transmitter while I'm setting up my helicopter. So I'm going to set this off to the side. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug in the helicopter. And this is why it's very important that I have the main motor unplugged, because otherwise the helicopter would spin up, cause all sorts of damage right now. Alright, so the very first step is to make sure that the servo arms are all 90 degrees to the servo. And that is for the three servos that control the swash plate, the three cyclic servos. You have your aileron, you have your elevator, and then you have your pitch servo. Okay, so here you can see the elevator and then the pitch servo. Now, from the factory, you're not going to have to mess with the servo arms. But if you ever replace one of the servos, this is when you would want to make sure that you get your servo arms 90 degrees to your servos. But after you've verified that, next thing you want to do is go through and adjust the two controlling arms on the left and right side. You want to try to make sure that these are 90 degrees, and if they're not, just adjust the linkages here. And then this control arm, you want to make sure is level with this control arm. So after you've gone through and done the three arms there, then you want to go through and make sure that the swash plate up here is level with the frame of the helicopter. And you want it to be level both this way and this way. Now they have tools that you can use to help assist in making sure that this is perfectly level, but myself, I just usually eyeball it and go from there. Now when you're making sure that the swash plate is level, you don't want to get it up too high and you don't want to get down too low. Now you know if it's right in the right spot because the washout arms up here will be level as well. So you'll have level swash plate, level washout assembly. So now what I'll do is I'll go through and adjust these links up here to get the rest of the parts up in the top of the head all level too. Okay, so the linkage coming up from the swash plate here to this control arm, what you want is when your flybar is level, you want that control arm to be level also. So adjusting this link, just make sure that you got your control arm up here level. Then you just want to make sure that all the arms up here, the two arms on each side, just make sure that they're even with each other and that the whole assembly up here is nice and level. And you can go ahead and loosen the Allen screw here and slightly, if you hold the opposite flybar paddle, you can turn it up or down a little bit to get it lined up. But you want to make sure that they're even. They should be even if the washout assembly is even too. So after that, now the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and check the pitch of my blades. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I've got 0 degrees pitch at mid-stick and idle up. So the only way to check this is with a pitch gauge. This is why this is important. Now, to use this, it's real simple. All you do, you can just snap it on the blade like that. And what you want to do is you want to make sure your flybar is level, and then you want to adjust the pitch gauge up or down so that you can line up the top of the pitch gauge with the flybar. And I'll see if I can adjust my camera down to show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Now you can kind of see pitch gauge lined up with the flybar. So you would take the reading, and again, you want to have 0 degrees pitch. So now if I have too much pitch, then I'd want to adjust the link back here. Now I usually make 1 or 2 turns on this back one maximum, on this small one back here. And if that doesn't get it after 1 or 2 turns, then I use the longer one on the opposite side. But you want to go through and check the pitch on both blades so you've got 0 degrees pitch at mid-stick. Okay, so with 0 degrees pitch on both blades, you should have the same amount of pitch going up as you do going down. So if you have positive 10 at the maximum, you should have negative 10. Sometimes you'll end up with maybe positive 10, negative 8. That's still fine for when you're beginning. To get it right, you would have to either raise or lower your swatch plate a little bit. Very small amounts, kind of time consuming. So again, if it's positive 10, negative 8, you're still good to go. So now what you do, if you've got it set up right, when you put it back into normal mode and you go all the way down to the very bottom, when you check your pitch, you'll still have 0 degrees pitch on your main blades. That's how you know you've got your helicopter set up right. So now what I'd do is I would go ahead, unplug the helicopter, turn the transmitter off, make sure that it's in idle, up is off, and I'll go over that later. But plug the motor back in, and then what I'll do is I'll take it out to the garage, and I'll start doing some testing with making sure my blades are tracking good, and make sure that the tail is holding good. So look for that video. That'll be coming up next.